The Lincoln Project is once again out with a provocative new ad slamming President Trump. The latest commercial from the Republican group highlights the president's comments that he did not, quote, take responsibility at all for a lack of testing during the middle of the coronavirus pandemic.
Great leaders prepare for every eventuality. They hope for the best, but they prepare for the worst.
The troops did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone.
Today, America faces new crises with new leaders.
You did disband the White House Pandemic Office.
I didn't do it. We have a group of people. No, I don't take responsibility at all because we were...
Isn't it time America returned to a different kind of leadership?
Jennifer Horn joins me now. She is the co-founder of the Lincoln Project and former chair of the New Hampshire Republican Party. Jennifer, thanks very much for being with us. What is the objective with these ads, and who is your target audience?
Well, thank you for having me. The objective of the ads, frankly, are simply to highlight the truth of this presidency and of this president. These ads have been so successful because they're so powerful. And they're so powerful because they are so honest. They lay out a really clear comparison between Donald Trump and other great leaders in times of crisis, in times of war, in times of national tragedy. Donald Trump has been an extraordinary failure, whether it's confronting the coronavirus, the global pandemic, the riots and the unrest that we've seen across this country in response to the police brutality and the issues of race in this country. You can go through the list. Donald Trump has failed every test of leadership in his presidency. And these ads, the reason they bother him as much as they provably do is because they're so honest.
You used the word successful a moment ago to describe these ads. By what metric? What's the criteria that you're using in terms of measuring success with these ads?
Sure. We're able to get the message out there to an extremely large audience that Donald Trump has failed as president, that he does not deserve a second term in the White House. And, the metric of success, are the views that they've had, the millions and millions of views that they've had, and the number of people who, thousands and thousands of people who continue to come to the cause of the Lincoln Project. And to be clear, our purpose at the Lincoln Project as Republicans and former Republicans is to stand up to this president and make sure that he is defeated by the people at the ballot box in November.
As you know, President Trump has successfully rallied a loyal, energetic base of supporters, and he also appears to enjoy taking on his most vocal critics as well. So why do you believe your strategy is the best path to help defeat President Trump?
Well, look, this president has been the most dangerous, most divisive president in modern times. And we see that playing out. So much of what's behind some of our recent ads has come from his failure of leadership this year, facing this global pandemic. But just in the last week or two, the degree to which this president has failed in providing the country what we need in the way of leadership in the face of the racial unrest in the country right now, confronting what's happened with the death of George Floyd. His responsibility is to bring together all the people of the United States. Of all the presidents we've had in my adult lifetime, none have been more divisive than Donald Trump. And to your point about his loyal base, that's a perfect example of that. Donald Trump cares only about that very narrowly defined group of Americans that he perceives as being his base. And all he cares about right now is making sure that he keeps that base loyal. We see it in his words, we see it in his actions, and the entire country is suffering as a result of that.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany pointed out today that President Trump has spoken out about the death of George Floyd, that he has called what happened wrong and horrific. What's your response to that?
Well, he also went on Twitter and said something about if there's going to be looting, there's going to be shooting. You know, he still thinks the most clever way to respond to an emergency is to go on Twitter and say something that he finds, clever, within himself. The president has not responded in the way that a president must under these circumstances. He has not done anything to bring the country together. He has provided nothing in the way of leadership or inspiration in his response. That is why, in great part, it's so unusual for former presidents to come forward and speak in place of a sitting president. And yet we've seen President Obama and President Bush and Laura Bush and Michelle Obama have come forward during this time to give the American people some inspiration, some guidance, some sense that that peace is possible and that unity in our country is possible, because this president has failed to do so.
Do you think, though, that those voices from what some would call the establishment, both Democrats and Republicans, are met in the same way in 2020 that they would have been met, say, in 2016 or even 2017?
I have no idea how anything would have been met 4 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it is. What I know is that the American people are not getting from this president the kind of leadership that is required under these terrible circumstances. And when we look back through the history of our country, even just, folks who are alive today, go back as far as World War II, look at the civil rights movement, look at what happened to our country and in our country after 9/11. We've always had presidents who have been able, no matter how much you disagreed with them, no matter how wrong you thought they were on policies, have been able to step into the moment when the American people needed them to. That's what's lacking from Donald Trump. And frankly, Donald Trump, as far as I would suggest, knows that and does not care. His continued effort to make clear that he takes no responsibility. It's not, that the global pandemic is not his responsibility, for example. The more he goes down that path, the clearer it becomes to the American people that leading our country is not his priority.
Realistically, we have seen President Trump been fairly successful at relegating Republicans who have challenged him to the sidelines in many respects. If you are a Republican currently holding office who does not support President Trump, what are your actual options in this moment?
Well, I would suggest that your only truly, the only option with any real integrity is to stand up and to speak up. How disappointing it was a couple of days ago to hear Senator Murkowski's comment. I believe it was after General Mattis made his comments, her saying to someone that finally somebody is speaking up and that maybe now they all, more of them would be able to, have cover, would be able to join. I don't remember her exact words, would be able to join. And it's incredibly disappointing because that's what the elected Republicans are supposed to be doing. It is their job to stand up. It is their job to speak up, to be a voice for all Americans, not just for the base of this divisive president, political campaign. So if you're a Republican and you're in the House or the Senate and you think the president's not doing a good job, if you're horrified by the destruction that he is wreaking on our nation, stand up. Speak up. I've said all along that I will not be bullied by the likes of Donald Trump. And to see elected U.S. Republican senators be afraid that he might tweet something mean at them, it's shocking. As far as I'm concerned, it's shocking.
You mentioned General Mattis a moment ago. An increasing number of military leaders who served in Democratic and Republican administrations are voicing criticisms of the president in recent days. Let's listen to what former Secretary of State Colin Powell said on Sunday.
I was deeply troubled by the way in which he was going around insulting everybody, insulting Gold Star mothers, insulting John McCain, insulting immigrants, and I'm the son of immigrants, insulting anybody who dared to speak against him. And that is dangerous for our democracy. It's dangerous for our country. And I think what we're seeing now, the most massive protest movement I have ever seen in my life, I think this suggests that the country is getting wise to this and we're not going to put up with it anymore.
Jennifer, what do you think the significance is of people like former Secretary of State Colin Powell speaking out now?
Well, we've clearly reached a point where leaders like Powell and Mattis and others have reached a point, the same point that we're at the Lincoln Project, where we are in fear for the future of our country. Someone like Colin Powell and General Mattis, these are true leaders. They have spent their lifetime serving the country, serving the Constitution. And Donald Trump, he's a play actor when it comes. He likes to imagine that he's tough like an army general or something like that. Call the pandemic a war, that he feels like somehow this is like being at war. And it's completely delusional on his part. What we hear coming from Colin Powell and from General Mattis in these last several days is the kind of language and the kind of leadership that America is so desperately lacking in this horribly, dangerously divided moment.
Jennifer Horn with the Lincoln Project. Jennifer, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.